Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. And today I'm having fat-free Greek yogurt, almond butter, and frozen cherries. And for those who've asked on occasion, yes, all of these are organic. Yes, I get it all at Costco. I buy the organic because that's what they have. I don't always have other options when I go there, and the price is great. So let's talk a little bit about getting yoked. For a long time, for quite a few years, that was the whole trend again on YouTube. Everyone was worried about yoke training. But the problem is, none of them seemed to know what a yoke actually was or how to train it. And what I mean, everyone was focusing just on the upper trap, right? Just on the upper trap, not on their whole upper back thickness. And people were doing the wrong exercises. Right, they were doing stuff like above the knee rack pulls and stuff, and I used to make fun of that a lot. And all the proponents of it have pretty much backed away from it. Right, they don't even push it anymore. And what's even funnier, we had all these kids who were like, "Well, my traps and my yoke blew up doing these." Like, really? Let's see a video. And if they had a video on their channel, guess what? They didn't have a yoke. They didn't even look like they lifted. Like, they looked like non-lifters. Right? And what they're not understanding is the yoke would be your whole upper back, which is the power look. This is something strength athletes have. Right? To be good at powerlifting, you usually have to have big traps, big rear delts, rhomboids, all those muscles, right? And really rear delts and to some extent side delts and stuff. And what people forget is that rear and side delts are going to get built by any exercise that builds the yoke, for the most part. What does that mean? That means rows, lots and lots of rows. And I'm a fan of pull-ups. I know I go back and forth on that. I've always said I'm a fan of pull-ups. I've just said that oftentimes some people can only get away with so many of them before they have problems. But I've learned how to actually make that work for myself and clients, for those problems to go away. But I love pull-ups. Pull-ups are phenomenal. I feel like pull-ups build deadlifts. But let's be fair, rows. Prioritizing rows is what's going to get you yoked. And when you start looking at data, it works the whole upper back. And as your angles get higher or grip gets wider, either one, it works more in the upper back. It starts bringing more and more focus up there. And yes, that includes all the obvious muscles, but that includes side delts. That includes side delts. And that's not my opinion. That is what data is showing. If you want to ignore data, then fine. But data shows that. Almost no one wants to check it though. Like EMG data, almost no one wants to check it on the side delts. Like, they don't want to test it, because then that's going to mean a whole lot of exercises everyone wants to do become less important. Because if rows hit your side delts as a full set, and arguably some types of rows do, what does that do with a lot of these small exercises everyone wants to do? What if overhead pressing hits them for at least half sets? A whole lot of small exercises we're wasting our time with, right? But I digress over to the point. They even hit that. But what hits that whole mid-trap, upper trap, posterior delts, rhomboids? Rows. Lots and lots of rows. Make them a priority. We come back over to that point of, if we're doing enough rows, do we even need a lot of these other things? And notice I'm not saying just do a pen leg row. I do a lot of types of rows. And if you're struggling with recovery, chest supported rows. Chest supported rows. Now, I've made the case that rear delt exercises, and when I say rear delt exercises, I mean face pulls. I mean, rear delt flies. I'm big on rear delt flies oftentimes, at least earlier this year. That builds your yoke. Okay, that will build your yoke better than a shrug, better than an above the knee rack pull, right? And I like snatch grip high pulls, don't get me wrong. I've pushed those in the past. I have clients who do them. But if we're going to look at stimulus to fatigue, unless you need the performance, specific performance carryover, they're not even going to be as good as a rear delt fly for that. And it's not because they don't work. It's just that we're using up a lot of recovery that could be spent doing things like deadlifts, good mornings, all that stuff. All right. We're using a lot of recovery up for that. And I still have clients who do snatch grip high pulls. Don't get me wrong. I have clients who do them. So there's reasons, like some of my specific athletes do them. My weightlifters do them. I have a weightlifter right now. He does them. And he does push presses and stuff too that I don't have other people do. But if you're doing enough rowing, the rear delt flies really become obsolete too. Right? They can start to become obsolete if rowing volume starts getting towards the amount you can recover, maximum recoverable volume. That'll build your yoke. Right? What else helps? Overhead pressing. If you can, your shoulders can handle it. And that's the thing. There's a certain amount of shoulder health that has to exist for you to overhead press. And there's tests and things you can do for that. There's a lot of info on that. Overhead pressing. All right, here's another big one. Speed pulls or speed deadlifts. And look, I don't like to rely on speed work for hypertrophy. I debate myself as to how useful it is for hypertrophy. All right. I've debated that myself. How do we even count it? I love speed work. I think it should be an integral part of our programming. I don't know if it's always the best for hypertrophy. But your upper back area, I mean, I'm talking about traps mostly, the whole trap. Right? Not just the upper trap. We're talking about upper, middle, lower. Speed pulls, especially speed pulls against bands, seem to hammer the holy hell out of that area. Right? That's high on your list. Start pulling against bands. Pull against bands. That'll do it. That'll help. How about doing safety bar work? Start squatting with a safety bar. Do some of your speed squats with a safety bar. How about good mornings with a safety bar? All of these things are what build a yoke up. All right, this is what builds it. But the take home is that rows should be an ultra high priority there. That's your top priority. Other stuff helps, but rows are king. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.